Have you ever wondered where the problems in the world today would exist if we had deeper connection to ourselves, others, and the environment and acted from that place? Welcome to the Conscious Action Podcast with your host, Brian Berneman, who believe that connection is the key to taking conscious action as individuals and creating a better world. We are here to raise awareness and inspire meaningful action by sharing stories, knowledge, and conversations with thought leaders and change makers. From sustainability to well-being and everything related to conscious living, our mission is to empower you to be the change that you want to see in the world. Welcome, everyone, to a new episode of the Conscious Action Podcast. I am Brian Berneman, your host, and I have the pleasure to be joined all the way from here in Auckland as well, all the way in Titirangi by Valeria Sumar. Thank you so much, Vale, for taking the time to be here. It's a pleasure to have a fellow Latin American and South American here on the podcast. And for everybody that is watching and listening to us, I would love it if you can share a little about you. Who is Vale?
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Ryan, for inviting me. This is an honor. And it's the first podcast in New Zealand. Not in English, but in New Zealand. So it's very exciting. Well, I'm Valeria. I'm from Chile. And I've been practicing and developing my passion and my career. And happily and luckily, I can say it's my passion and way of life for 10 years. No, actually like 9 years. I started studying in Chile. I finished my bachelor in nutrition and dietitian. And then halfway the career, I started getting real curious from a personal experience with the menstrual cycle. I was, as many women in South America, and I reckon everywhere, was taking hormones, and they told me that was the only way to heal my problems and, to have freedom, basically. And it was really tricky. Like around the third year of my career, I started having this crisis about like health, because we start in South America, the health careers, we are super deep. We go to the hospital from like year 2 in all the careers. So I started going to the hospital and I started seeing the system, and I'm like, I thought nutrition would be something completely different, not like putting people in diets. And at the same time, I was seeing all of these women with menstrual pain. I don't know why that would be in the consultation, but it was, and I was like, oh my God, I have all these problems, but I'm having pills. Long story short, I froze in my career, went to India for a few months, ended up staying in Australia, blah, 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 doing a lot of courses in mindful eating, and come back to Chile, got off the pill, and never got my period for like 1 year. And I start feeling this big disconnection with my body from like, I don't know nothing about it. And I decided to finish my career, even though I knew I wouldn't do that exactly job or in that specific way. But I met a really important elder woman in that time in Chile who led me through the process of connecting with my body through somatic therapy, but also, as you know, in South America, we got lots of different rituals, around the womb and around the body. And I was really lucky to find her, as I grew up with a very unpresent mother, and she has psychosis and a lot of mental health issues. And I didn't click. All of this could be my own PTSD and my own trauma. So in the way, I was already 1 year without period, and then we click, the trauma and everything. And after a few months, I recovered my period, but it was more than recover my period. It was like I started living inside myself again. It was really painful, to be honest, feeling the pain, feeling all the feelings, and finished my career, long story short, because many things happened. And I did my master in women's health. Specifically, in that time, I did endometriosis, which I still work a lot with pain, with endometriosis. And then in the last 8 years, I started somatic therapy as well. and another practices like body mind centering, warm massage. So my practices around the behaviors and nutrition, mostly the relationship with the body, how to live inside the body, and also through our cycles. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I often share with a lot of people that when I was a teenager and I was introduced to a lot of the different traditions that my parents introduced me, and they were, encouraging me to explore, it was then that I realized that I was so disconnected from my body. I didn't know that I was disconnected from my body until I started to do somatic practices. And I was like, oh, wow, I have no idea literally what's going on in here. And I started to realize this, like now in the last 20 years doing this work, that most people are completely disconnected from their bodies. And when we're not connected with our bodies, there's no way of knowing what is that we are experiencing, how to self-regulate, how to heal, how to be balanced, how to align and do the things that we need, because we are not actually listening to our needs because we cannot listen to the body. Um, so I would love to know a little bit more about, like, for you specifically before we get into like how this is more from a practical perspective for everyone. When you started to connect through those teachings and that elder woman and the somatic practices, um, what did you realize about yourself that, it's like the aha moments or different things that it's like, I didn't realize this was part of my experience. I didn't realize I needed this, or, how to take care of myself.
Mm. I realized, well, first of all, it was really painful and uncomfortable, and it was not all like butterflies and blue sky. So I realized, yeah, how far away I was. I thought because I already like eat super healthy, I was like doing like exercise, but I never felt this like if I close my eyes like that moment where I'm tapping and I'm like, wow, that's amazing, or that's pleasure. Like pleasure in many ways. I mean, like pleasure of like being inside myself. And I started recognizing so many things. So I was like, oh, I even don't know when I'm really hungry, and I was studying nutrition. I'm a dietitian, and I was like, I didn't realize this is hunger, this is satiety. Wow. And also the pain in the body, because as society as well, we are really afraid of the body. We are on fear, so it's easy to take a pill, something, yeah. Which, don't take me wrong, sometimes it's needed, we know. But I was like, this pain is telling me a lot, and this uncomfortability. So I feel I had so many aha moments actually in the pain and in the uncomfortability. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a process. I often say to a lot of people, when I remember when I started to reconnect with my body, and it was a process of understanding a lot of my tendencies. I didn't, like, fortunately, I didn't go through like the pain as you're sharing, and it wasn't always, butterflies. It's not always nice. It was a lot of actually understanding that I was carrying so many blockages and so much trauma based on my own childhood experience and the things that came before, um, that I needed to, and I had the curiosity to go and explore and to find the different modalities to look at that trauma and to heal. And that's not always easy. It takes a lot of courage to step into that space and to do something with that. Yet I often, when I talk to people, my clients, my students at university, I tell them, the importance of spending time with ourselves, with our body, so that we can actually engage with life from a very different place.
Yeah, with life itself, because it's very romantic, but it's true. The only way to live life, which is not super long, and to live our dreams and our like fully purpose here is through our bodies. It's not other way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, I remember I was I was living, when was this? Like 12 years ago. I was living in California. I was living in a Buddhist retreat center that I lived in the middle of the mountain for some years. And I remember that my teacher used to say, everything is about embodiment. All of the mind practices need to be embodied. All of the body practices need to be embodied. All of the work and the actions that we do need to be embodied. Everything is about embodying experience. Exactly what you're saying, you know, life is about that. And this is the vehicle that we have. And how can we take care of it? And how can we listen to it if we are so disconnected from it? So I would love to know, Vale, in your own experience, not only about your personal life, but working in this space. Um, what do you notice that majority of people need at the beginning to start reconnecting?
Mm. I work mostly, with women and people who menstruate. So I think one big part is going through the belief system, and that's going through the nervous system. Um, but yeah, going through the belief system and seeing the belief system in like a tree, in like a whole of like, okay, this is social, this is family, this is culture, and this is like my own experience of me as an adult. But where everything began, where when I was young, because from there is how I start developing my embodiment through my belief system. But it's not all just words. It's also sometimes the nervous system and us and our beliefs, we cannot express it in words. It will be in a posture, it will be in a way of feeling. So I always start from seeing the picture like complete. And in my experience, in my practice, is a very big tendency. I will say 90% of people I've been with and I work with, the relationship with the body image is super strong. For women and people who menstruate, it's so strong. Shame and guilt, but from our families as well. And I thought this was stronger in South America, but I've been working the last 8 years in Australia, in Indonesia with a lot of internationals from everywhere, in Europe, in UK, and here now, and it's everywhere. So, and yeah, I start from there.
Mm. You know, I often say when I work with a lot of people, and I will know what you're saying, especially with women. It is true for some men as well. For a lot of women, the not being able to feel safe and and having those, like perspectives and societal pressures on how the body should look like or different standards that are unrealistic, how that has an impact in the body and in their beliefs then, and how then that doesn't allow the body to actually function in the way that it's supposed to function. Because, and of course, this is one of the biggest things that I tell everyone. We're all unique, we're all different.
Mm.
Nothing that works for one person exactly is going to work for another person. Like, we all need to find everything that fits for each of us.
Mm.
But there is something in there that, when we start to unlearn and deconstruct and find a sense of safety, that then we can allow for our wholeness to start to return in a sense.
Yeah, completely. And as you say, I say with like the body cannot function properly when this happened, and it's for so many reasons. Stress is gonna be so prominent. anxiety, not just to fit in how I should look, but also how I should behave. And we all humans, what we want in life is we want to belong. All we want is to be accepted and belong somewhere. And that's what we're looking for. So if society is telling us to do that, we're gonna do that. You know? And the body's not just gonna like be super stressed. It's just in order to meet those requirements of looking a certain way and behaving a certain way, something in my lifestyle, which is real important, is gonna be affected. In my area, for example, but not just in my area, I see this a lot, is food. Yeah, food is important. Yeah. And the way people is eating is stressful. They're doing to all of these extreme behaviors of diets, or extreme behaviors, fasting a lot, or in order to weight certain number or look in certain way. So yeah, the body is not going to function properly. And that is happens in all factors in the lifestyle. If I'm stressed, the body, the hormones, the nervous system is not going to function properly.
No, as you're talking about the food, when I grew up, I used to eat so much, like, but in that moment, it felt like the natural thing, like I was playing a lot of sports and was very active, and my metabolism was working super well. So I was just like eating and eating and eating. And it was a typical Argentinian diet, it wasn't. I thought in that moment that I was healthy. Then I started to learn otherwise with some of the foods that I was eating. And my dad used to go through some of those super harsh diets for a while and lose a lot of weight. And then he would eat like a lot and then go back. And it was kind of like a yo-yo, like this, that. And and I see him, now in his 60s, that finally, some years ago, he actually stopped going to those hard diets and he started to eat a little bit more attuned to his needs. So he doesn't go to any of those hard diets. He eats mostly a clean diet, a healthy diet for him. And he's like feels so much better than what he used to. And he looks like I keep on telling him like he looks younger now than when he was 30. Like when he was younger than me, he looks now. And and I see this as well for myself, like, as I remember when I was, like in my late teen years and I stopped, uh, I got injured and I stopped playing sports and I was eating the same thing and I started gaining weight and gaining weight and gaining weight. And I was like, well, something needs to change here. My lifestyle, my habits, they need to change, the food that I'm eating. And I started to connect more as well with my body. So I started to notice more, okay, what do I need to eat? But as well throughout, the last 20 years since then, I also realized multiple times how I was actually finding comfort in my food, or how I was going to specific foods for specific, triggers that were taking place. So food definitely has a big impact. And I think that the the thing that I know that this is something that you do, even though you studied nutrition and diets, is like not following any of those strict diets.
Mm-mm. Yeah, that was one of the first things when I was studying 10 years ago or more. I was like, wow, this is real bad. You know? We are making people sick. I That was my first thought, because I could see the anxiety and the stress we were putting in those poor people just because of a number. I'm like, it's not about the weight, because yeah, that's a symptom. We have to take it as a message, you know. When you gain weight very rapid, very fast, or when you lose really fast as well. Like, it's a tendency to celebrate weight loss, but this also could mean something. Anyway, they say, and then I was like, I started studying deeply. the science. I'm a very nerd as well. I love studying. So I started studying really deeply the science of weight and the science of the food and the nutrition. And science is one thing. Yeah. Personal experience for me is much more important. And science in nutrition, let's say, is super new. It's like super new. So it's also, we cannot really follow that. If I go deep there, is many, many facts, but I could see when then I finished my career and I started doing my own thing, I studied intuitive eating, and that saved my life, my own personal life. But also, I was like, this is it. And intuitive eating is all about how we live inside our bodies. But as I said before, we have to start somewhere else before. But it's so amazing because, as you said, we're all different. We all of our bodies, we have our own unique, authentic, amazing, different technology. We're all very different. And for what it could make me feel really good, maybe it's gonna make you feel really bad. And that's okay.
Yeah.
But of course, all of this could be taught in a very kind and educational way. We don't need to follow rules. Of course, some people doesn't know nothing about nutrition. Fair enough. So we can teach them. This is proteins, this is carbs, this is how you mix them. Variety, like some stuff. But we don't need to follow a diet, strict rules. We don't need that. Even if we get sick, let's say, when someone has endometriosis or some sort of imbalance, you don't need to follow strict rules. Actually, there is so much magic in listening really carefully and slowly what's going on.
Yeah, and for that, this is one of the reasons why I love working somatically with people, because I hear so much people telling, that just as a blank message, kind of like a listen to your body. And I'm like, people don't know how to listen. So we need to actually reconnect first, because what people, a lot of times, I worked through the years with a lot of people that are telling me that they are listening to their body. And I'm like, okay, so we start to explore what does that mean and how that is. And we realize, and they realize, they are actually just listening to their mind and their conditioning. They are not listening to their body. But through different practices to reconnect and to come back and to feel, there's then that capacity that we have to really listen to the needs of the body, and to be able to do that. I often tell a lot of times to people that now for the last 8, 9 years, I've been following a plant-based diet, and that works for me because that aligns with what I believe, and that aligns with my way of seeing the world. And it's not something that I tell people like, you need to go vegan, you need to eat this. It's like, this is what aligns with me. So it feels right for my system when I eat that. If that wasn't the case, then that's not the type of food that I need to eat.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's, I think that it's a lot of times this being able to find that space to, yes, look for information, find information, as you're saying, like we might feel more comfortable if someone that knows a little bit more than us, or a lot more than us, about certain things can give us some information, and at the same time, as you were saying, empowering people to connect with what's good for them based on that information.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's all about, as you say, empowering. Because, of course, like, let's say, I always put endometriosis as an example, but it's a very painful condition. So, for example, some stuff are a fact. It's gonna, help. But it could be through education, not through guilt and shame and rules and all of this. And I think the key as well is flexibility, as you said, because now for what you be living and how you live your life, this is making a lot of sense. It might not in 5 years, in 10 years, we don't know.
Yes.
But if we're flexible enough and we develop this active listening, we can completely do it. So I think it's a lot of things to unlearn, and it's good to look for information, but don't overlook. Nowadays it's really complex. Like people come to my consultation, it's like, oh, but I've been reading about this, like the fasting and this diet and this thing, and I'm like, let's erase everything and let's start from zero. And I do challenge them to stop reading everything for a month, just to do a reshuffle and like
Mm.
to come back inside and to really, yeah, organize. Because yeah, we can get education and etc. But nowadays, if you go in social media, there's so many good accounts like your one, my one, but it's a lot of things like you have to do this in order to be healthy. This was my experience, so you should do that. I think if you ever see someone saying, professional or not professional, saying, this is my experience, you should do this or you should do that, you should run. Because it's all about empowering people and believing. I really believe in the sovereignty of the body, of each other's body, and also in all the wisdom we have inside. And it's so unique. And I believe we can, as a therapist, we can empower people to tap in there.
Yeah.
And we can just leave them and give them the hand to walk there, not alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I love that because this has been my way of, it's just because this was my path and
Mm.
what I recognized from my own path, that I was like, my role as a therapist, as a facilitator, as a whatever hat I'm wearing, um, it's about giving people the tools that they can then reclaim their own power and as I say, their own sovereignty to be able to actually be the ones that are the leaders of their own life and take the steps that are good for them. And I can walk beside them. I can, like hold their hands. I can be there with them. I can guide them, whatever it is that they need. But it's not about me, it's about them. And I actually had this a lot of times with different business mentors that were like, Brian, like you're supposed to retain your clients. And I'm like, no, I'm supposed to empower them and then let them go. But it's I think that the approach of being able to give people something that is going to support them. And this is why, for me, again, like going back to the importance of the body, like why I always, like do something with the body with them, because I'm all of the time telling them, this is so important. This is your temple, and how you listen to it and the wisdom that you're already holding. Like, you don't need me to tell you anything.
Mm.
You just perhaps need me to support you in unlocking the wisdom that is there already.
Yeah, yeah, I believe the same. It's the same. Like, I don't want to hold the people. To be honest, my whole goal is to let them go when they're ready and to be there when they need me again. Yes, but at the same, it's empowering. It's about, I believe in them. I believe in their bodies as well.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's really beautiful.
Mm. And
Yeah.
Vale, I would love to know, as you work a lot with women, and you mentioned earlier as well about your own experience with your cycle. Um, this is something that I often tell, like a lot of my clients are women, and I often tell them, like they need to get in touch with their cycles. And it's so important in society. We don't follow this, like we're following a very masculine paradigm. We are not allowing for the cycles of women as society. Therefore, women are not allowing their own cycles.
Mm.
How do you work with one, and how like do you get them to reconnect with their own cycles?
Mm. Um, Yeah, I think really similar of what we talked at the beginning of like the beliefs, because with our menstrual cycle is a history from a long time ago, from the witches and from all of that side of history, where women were looked as unclean, and all their power with the menstrual cycle was not, it was like dangerous for the tribes. So from then, which is the like the witch areas start coming a lot of shame and guilt around the menstrual cycle. And then in the more modern times, like from the 60s, I don't remember really the number, but from there, sorry, but I think, yeah, 60s, when it was more advertisement and stuff. So marketing also has a really big effect in how we live our menstrual cycles, because they put a lot of shame as well in how we live our menstrual cycle as menstrual products. From there it started to show women like being active and using like white clothes while they're having the periods, and all of this pressure of like I should be like a man and keep going and keep doing at the same time. So that's social, but at the same time it's really important how our moms and our grandmas live their menstrual cycle and how they taught us, or if they didn't tell nothing to us. Because for me, no one told me anything. And then when I got it, my mom was like, well, my mom has had mental health issues, but she was like, oh, this is so sad. You know, like, it's so painful. Like, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, I was so afraid. I was so confused. I'm like, but then all the people was like, oh, you're a woman. And like, it was all of these different things going on. So that history and that belief, which stays in the nervous system, is completely connected of how we live our cycles.
Mm.
And then education, so schools and that part of our life is important. And many women I see, they've been in hormone contraceptive for a long time for many reasons. So it's a long time and a long period of our lives being disconnected of being cyclical. So how we can get there slowly, because all of these factors. But the first thing I really recommend when someone, let's say, is already without hormone contraceptive, is start charting, but not in an app in the phone, in a paper, just to write down, to journal about like, how you're feeling in different ways of your body and your mental health, because we change a lot through our month.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I'm not an expert. I still I'm getting educated and learning about women's cycles more and more through the years, both to be able to understand the women that I work with, but women just in general as well, and how, like the the hormones and the like in the different phases of their cycle have an impact on their moods or on their energy levels, and how, like then we can honor that.
Mm.
And as you're saying, there's so many different um, things that have been happening throughout history that have neglected all of that part. That, as you're saying, it's all about pushing through instead of honoring that, okay, this part of your cycle, like you're supposed to rest. You're supposed to be nourishing yourself. This other part, yes, now you have all of the energy, go and do that. This part, now you're very creative. It's like how to honor those parts. But as you're saying, if you don't even know because you haven't been in touch with it for whatever reason, it doesn't matter why. Like I work a lot of times with family constellations, like a lot of the pain that women get from when they bleed, there's sometimes a lot of energy from their ancestors that are there. And,
Mm.
as a different lens of how to work with that. But at the end of it is mostly we don't even know. Like most women don't know about something that happens to them since they are, like early teenagers until they have menopause. And it's like, this is a big part of your life, you
Yeah,
know. And it's not, you know, like, oh, you should learn about it. It's like, how wonderful would it be if you knew about it and if you knew how to use it. Again, empowering people to be able to work with what's there because that's part of life.
yeah. And as you said, it's a really big part of our lives, and also is not just it's an amazing tool, if we really connect with it, because we know when to use our creativity, and we also allow ourselves to rest in a part of the month. And yeah, we also get a lot of flexibility because we're going to change through the month. Our body science is going to change, our body feelings is going to change, but also is in society is a lot of beliefs of our menstrual cycle is basically to do babies, to get pregnant. So I just gonna get my normal cycle, so go out of contraception just to make babies, or I'm taking contraception to avoid babies, which is fair enough when you don't feel it's another tool for you, like the symptothermical method or any other one. But it's not just to make babies. it's much more than that, and it's like a card. It's like a report card. Every month we get of a report of how was our health through our whole month, and also when it's symptoms, there's something there to look at. And for me, I hope in a future where all the health practitioners ask about it and ask about how is your menstrual cycle, how is your period, how is your pain, how long are your cycles. So it's so much information there for actually our health and well-being, because fertility is not just to make babies, it's how women also get their brain health and cognitive health right, how we get our cardiovascular system to work properly, how our lungs even, it's so important. And but this comes back to the first part of our conversation, from like the disconnection from the body, because the organs, they are not all like, oh, the brain is there and the gut is somewhere there, and like they are all like in a table, like talking to each other and saying, hey, I'm not good, so I'm gonna have a message there when you get your period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I often say this, and many people say, like, have talked about this, like, symptoms are signals from the body that
Mm.
something is not in balance, something is out of balance, so we need to look at it. But if we don't know how to pay attention to the body, and we avoid it, or we neglecting, or we repress it because we didn't learn how to do it, just like we didn't know when we were younger, then we're not going to actually listen to those cues that the body is giving us. And it's, like I often say, like, it's suddenly like the body is knocking on the door, and it's knocking on louder and louder and louder and louder until it's like, well, you have no other choice than to listen to this, and now you're in the hospital for a month. It's like,
Yeah.
but when we're able to actually reconnect and to listen, then we're able to do the things that are right for us in that specific moment. Because again, something that is right for us at one point might not be at another point. And we need to honor that, and to honor, as you're saying, like, the all of the parts of the cycle, all of the different organs, all of the different ways that we're engaging.
Mm.
And to be able as well, to I tell a lot of women that I work with about the cycles as well, like, to communicate, because if they have partners or they have kids, it's important that, like, most men have no idea about that.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what are the needs? It's like, like, I'm at this part of my cycle. I'm going to need you to actually take care of me a little bit more than usual, perhaps. It's like, I need that support or whatever. And it's like, if we don't know and it's not being communicated, it makes us, well, like, just existing in relationship to others much more challenging. And I remember I had this one client that she was struggling at work because of her cycle. And I asked her, have you ever talked with your manager to see if you can change your work to actually honor your cycle? And then she went and she asked, and they allowed her to actually, as long as after the month she actually got things done, they didn't care about when and how she did things.
Mm,
And I
yeah.
was like, well, not every workplace is going to allow that, but at least, like she asked.
Yeah. I think we're still like a long way, but I feel, the other day, a client of mine here also told me the same. She talked to her manager, and yeah, if she finished everything is fine, and we can honor that through our faces. And of course, I wanna also point of like, I know nowadays is a lot of like symptoms in the menstrual cycle and things which can be really stressful, but because also, in the normal medical science area, it's not many answers, and they normalize for so long our pain. Like menstrual pain which inhabilitates you. If you're hearing here, this is not something to normalize. It's something also to don't freak out straight away. Just to look at it and work through it. But when we try to look for answers where they told us to go, which is like the normal medical system, is always just a pill or saying it's normal because we're women. And that they told me that as well many years ago, and that was so painful, and I just got so angry because science is also in women's health. I do research in women's health, and when I started doing research in women's health, I was so pissed off because there's so little studies about the woman's body. Like we don't even know really well the tissue in the uterus, but we know all about the men's body, all about it, like a lot about it. And but the woman's body is really under study. They study just pregnancy because, of course, it serves a very misogynistic culture because we make humans. But it's not really many studies about menstrual pain and all the things in our life, like menopause and our beautiful organ there, the uterus. So it's tricky, but it's all. That's why I think this work of listening to our bodies is so important, because science can tell us a few things and help us in a few things always, I think, but it has to be in complement with our own experience and also about nature and about our rituals and ancestors. I think mixing this is amazing.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I often share, like with everyone, ancient wisdom and a lot of the different ancient traditions have a lot of the answers on how to be in relationship to ourselves, to others, to the elements, to nature. And we just need to find a way of bringing that into the modern life that we have now and to make it work for each of us. So again, like honoring our own bodies and honoring our own needs because we're all different. So Vale, I would love to keep on talking like for hours with you. I'm aware that we're almost towards the end of our conversation. So I'm going to ask you just two last questions. And the first one might be something that perhaps you already talked about or something that you haven't mentioned yet, but what is the one thing that you wish everyone in the world knew?
Mm. Oh, it's a few things. uh, that our bodies are not broken. Mm, yeah. Two things we say one.
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, if you have another one, add another one.
I was thinking to complement that with like self-compassion because we didn't talk about that. And yeah, we think, oh, my body is doing this to me, but our bodies are not broken, and yeah, that's one thing. And self-compassion can allow us to maybe listen.
Mm. Beautiful. I often tell a lot of my clients, as depending on what's going on with them, um, to do different practices like going to the mirror and looking at themselves with love and compassion, and looking at the parts that they are judging about themselves, and and to be able to feel the feelings of whatever arises when they are looking at themselves. So yeah, I love that, bringing compassion into the experience as we return to our wholeness. That for me, that's always what I say. That's the path of healing. It's a return to our wholeness, and to be able to do that through the lens of understanding that we're not broken. Yes, there's imbalances. Yes, there's symptoms, but we're not broken. So beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And lastly, for anybody that is interested in what you're doing, that perhaps is resonating with you and your message, where can people find you? How can they work with you?
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I have an Instagram called Inner Wisdom Health, so everyone can find me there, and I have an agenda there, so they can click and book. They can also send me email and ask me questions if they have any, and I do a few different modalities. And also, I'm about to start a practice in Auckland because I live in Titirangi, so I do things here in Titirangi. But also, I'm about to start in a few weeks something in Auckland as well.
Beautiful. And as well, for anybody that also speaks in Spanish, know that Vale as well,
So,
she does work in Spanish. You can find her as Radiant Nutritionist.
yes,
Yes,
yes.
cool.
So Spanish and English. Yeah.
So in both languages, I have the same thing all of the time. I need to remind people like speaking Spanish that like they can work with me in that way and find me in that way. So I'll put all of the links on the show notes so that if anybody's resonating with Vale, you can go and check her and her information over there. So thank you so much, Vale, for being here. Thank you for sharing your story, sharing the different practices and some of the wisdom of things that you have learned in this time.
Thank you, Ryan. It was amazing to talk to you as well, and to meet you as well. So thank you
Yes.
so much.
And to everyone listening and watching this episode, what did you hear? What resonated with you? What was new information? What did you already know? How is your own journey of reconnecting with your body, perhaps with your cycle? Let us know anywhere that you're finding this episode. Just write a message, and yeah, let's keep the conversation going. So thank you everyone for being here. Thank you, Vale, once more, and we'll see you all next time. Bye.
Thank you.
What did you like the most about this episode? Take a moment to think about what change you can make in your life today.
Share your conscious action on social media using #ConsciousAction and tagging @ConsciousActionNZ so we can celebrate your impact on the world and create a ripple effect.
One easy action we would love for you to take right now is to share, like, and subscribe to this podcast. This will help us get these messages out into the world and inspire more people to take conscious action in their own lives, contributing to the better world we hope for.